I've just got joined. It would be great if you could mute your microphones. Thank you. Right, I think we'll get going. We're a couple of minutes after 1 o'clock now. Thank you all for coming, and welcome to the third webinar in the series. This is a series of webinars organised by the Renal Data Research Network, hosted by Kidney Research UK and in partnership with the UK Kidney Association. Next slide, please, May. So, this is me. I'm the patient co-chair of the Renal Data Network. So a little bit of housekeeping, just to let you know that the webinar is being recorded. It's going to be on the Kidney Research UK YouTube channel afterwards. If you could keep your microphones muted throughout, that would be brilliant. You can keep your camera on if you wish, just be aware that it is being recorded and you might be seen. We're going to have some questions at the end if we've got time. We're doing that through our Q&A function, which hopefully you'll find at the top of your screen. If you're using a tablet or smartphone, you might need to click more to find it and select Q&A. If you don't have access to the Q&A, you can put your question in the chat and we'll move it across. But we're not taking questions in person. It'd be great if you could write them down instead. And if you want to use the live subtitles, you can click on more and language and speech, and that will show you the live captions. So that's all housekeeping. The next slide, May, thanks. So these are the aims of the webinar series. It's to introduce patients and the public to the kidney health data landscape. We want to help you understand how patient data is used in kidney research. We want to learn more about patient perspectives of data research, and supporting data research is part of a wider.
One more. After this, one more dose.
Could you mute if that's all right? Thank you. Supporting data research is part of a wider commitment to innovative research, resulting in benefits to patients. So, and the next slide, thanks. So this is how the series is shaping up. We've already had two. If you weren't able to see them, you can catch up with them on the Kidney Research UK YouTube channel. One was a general introduction to the role of patients in health data research, and one was using health data for patient benefit. Today, we're talking about analysis of kidney data using nationally collected data sets. And then we've got a couple of more dates coming up. If you've registered for this one, you'll get sent the links to those automatically, so you don't need to register again. And then the next slide is just an outline of what we're doing today. We've got a talk by Nithin Bodapati about the UK Renal Registry, turning data into action. We've got Lyon from the Patient Council, UKKA Patient Council, talking about patient involvement in the UK Renal Registry. And Katie Wong is going to talk about RaDaR, the National Registry of Rare Kidney Diseases. And then, as I said, if we've got time, we'll have a Q&A. So that's just our outline. And then we're going to head over to our first speaker, Nithin Bodapati. Welcome, and we look forward to hearing your talk.
Thank you very much, Viranda, and welcome everyone, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm a clinical research fellow and I'm a renal trainee in the Southwest region. So the motto of the UK Renal Registry is turning data into action, which very much will be the theme of the talk for the next 10 minutes and matches the theme of the webinar today too. The Renal Registry and RaDaR are branches of UK Kidney Association, which is a multi-professional organization. These are the research branches for the UKKA. The Renal Registry was originally set up in 1995 with the aim to collect data on patients receiving kidney replacement therapy. These are the patients who are on some form of dialysis or receive a kidney transplant. This has evolved over time, and we now collect data of around 70,000 people on kidney replacement therapy, with 8,000 people starting kidney replacement therapy every year We also collect data on around 500,000 people with acute kidney injury. This is made possible through Section 251 of the NHS Act in 2006. We do not explicitly individually consent every patient, but because we use this data for research audit purposes, we are allowed to handle confidential patient information. Patients can opt out of it. Prior to this, the legal basis was under the Health and Social Care Act. So what do we do with what do we collect? What all data sets do we collect? So we have we receive, as I mentioned, it started with the aim of patients on kidney replacement therapy. We now also include advanced chronic disease, which are chronic disease stage 4 and 5, stage 5 being the end stage renal disease. Additionally, we have AKI dataset and the PREM dataset, which I'll touch in the next slides. During COVID times, we also had a COVID dataset. And what do we do with this? As the motto suggests, our main aim is turning data into action, and audit plays a key role in that. With the wealth of data we receive and the information we generate, quality improvement and research go hand in hand, and all three arms complement each other. So the key work of the registry lies in releasing the annual report, which has been an yearly report since its inception. So the annual report covers comprehensively the state of kidney affairs across all the 64 centers of 64 renal centers in UK. This is done by the renal centers sharing quarterly data with the renal registry. This is compiled over 1 year. 6 months is taken to analyze the data, filter it, and then 6 months in writing up. So it's backdated up to 2 years. The latest report, which would be the 2023 report, which would be for the year of 2023, will be released this summer. Since 2009, children and young adults under the age of 18 are included in the annual report too. And it is a comprehensive report. We've taken the patient council feedback and have generated patient summaries, which explains in simple terms the state of renal affairs. The other important data set we have is the PREM data set, which stands for, which is done in collaboration with Kidney Care UK, stands for Patient Reported Experience Measure. I'm sure some of you have filled in the PREM report, have been part of the PREM report, or have come across this during your kidney care journeys. This is a national annual survey capturing the experience of patients who engage with renal care. This is completely online now, and you can access the PREM through the UKKA website on this by clicking the portal now. This is the summary of the PREM report, and this captures the patient experience across 6 domains. And as you may have all experienced, transport scores low of all the areas. Sorry, I think my screen stopped working. Yeah, the other important data set we collect is on acute kidney injury. For those who are not familiar, it is the sudden loss of kidney function due to any illnesses such as dehydration, infection, or surgeries. You might have heard about it more recently with the Pope developing acute kidney injury with a pneumonia. And thankfully, he's made it recovered from that. GIRFT report, which was getting it right the first time, showed that there was a lot of variation in the management of acute kidney injury across UK. All this information led to an NHS mandate where all the laboratories share the acute kidney injury in the blood process they sample with us on a monthly basis. So this has led to us releasing an yearly report on acute kidney injury. This is only for England and not for Wales and Northern Ireland. We have released the third AKI report in January 2025. And similar to the annual report, we also have a patient summary, which makes it easy to read. This helps in the development of acute kidney injury guidelines, giving clinicians in primary and secondary care tools to manage acute kidney injury well. Another important report was the disparities report, which my co-speaker Sue Lyon would be speaking in her presentation. We also released a report in 2024 where we commented on the inequalities in the kidney transplant waiting list, which showed that Black people and patients from poorer areas were less likely to be on the transplant waiting list. This has led to Kidney Research UK releasing a review called Time to Act with strategies to negate such inequalities. We also complement our data set with other data sets such as NHS Blood and Transplant to capture the transplant information. We use NHS Digital Public Health England to give a more complete picture. You can access these data portals where you can compare how your local centers are doing in relative to other centers on the website. These are very user-friendly and easy to interact. We appreciate that the annual report, although gives a very comprehensive picture, is backdated by up to 2 years owing to the nature of data collection. So to streamline it to provide more real-time data, we've come up with a project called UKRDC, which is a UK Renal Data Collaboration, which we have started. We currently have 8 units enrolled with us. We're working with the aim of enrolling one unit every fortnight. This allows the units to pick up on early trends and act on the data and act on their local audits and quality improvement projects. Another major advantage is we'll have a comprehensive information on the medications and also comorbidities, which are not very reliable on the registry dataset. These audits have also led to quality improvement projects where we have helped Derby Trust and also invalidating the primary and secondary care datasets. The UKKA also has a network under its guidance, which is a trainee-led national audit group. They have completed their first project, which was on capturing the biopsy practice patterns, and that will lead to the development of best practice guidelines. Research is a key part in the daily affairs of the registry, and we deal with both external and internal projects. Data release group has patient council members where we go through individual applications with clinicians and take patient input in guiding meaningful research. These are some of the key data publications. You can access these publications on the Health Data Research Innovation Gateway through this link or through the UKKA website. So how have we added to the betterment of kidney care through the research? One such instance is during COVID times, we published many reports showing that the kidney patients are at higher risk of severe COVID and death due to COVID. So we were also part of a trial of a drug called sotrovimab, which is an antiviral for COVID, which was not initially available to the kidney patients. But through the evidence we gathered, NICE has approved this, which has benefited many patients. Some other interesting trials the registry is a part of the phosphate trial and the resolve trial. Phosphate medicines, as many you might have taken at some point, are not pleasant, and this trial will help in understanding if there is any benefit in lowering the phosphate. Similarly, Resolve trial is looking into the dialysis fluid and if it's got any relation with the heart attacks and strokes, which are increasingly seen in the kidney patients. We have also done research on climate and kidneys, where we showed that increase in the climate change causing rise in temperatures is increasing the incidence of AKI. And we're also trying to collaborate with sustainability committee to benchmark the carbon footprint and the water footprint kidney community has on our planet. Our focus for 2025 lies in linking the renal registry with the cardiac registry and cancer linkage. We're also looking into infections and comorbidities. And consented cohort is a patient-led research project where patients will be consented to form a cohort, and they can take part in research. It gives the researchers and the patients multiple opportunities. We're also planning on releasing a newsletter which is being revised after feedback from the patient council. This will be rolled out this year. This is the amazing team I work with, which made everything possible. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. You can access all of this information on the UKKA website, which is very interactive, and our marketing and comms team spend quite a lot of time making this very user-friendly. Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing my presentation.
Lovely, thank you. Oh, thank you, Nithin. That was so interesting. There's so much to the renal registry, and I'm sure we could have actually just filled a whole webinar with talking about it. Maybe we'll have to do that, because there were so many interesting things in that. We're now going to hear from Sue Lyon, who is the chair of the UKKA Patient Council. So she'll explain what she does, but it's also linked to the renal registry, and I think May's showing the slides for you. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. First slide, please. Yes, I am Sue Lyon, and I'm chair of the UKKA Patient Council, and I'm going to talk about patient involvement in the UK Renal Registry, where we aim to make data count for patients. Next slide, please. This is my declaration of interest and disclaimer. As you can see, I am a long-term kidney patient, having been at the coalface since 1977. I was a freelance medical writer and editor until I finally saw the light and retired last year. And this presentation represents my personal views. Next slide, please. For people who don't know what the Patient Council is, this is what we are. We are an independent working group supported by the UK Kidney Association and the UK Renal Registry. We originally formed to advise the registry, but we now advise the entire association. We are always chaired by a kidney patient, which is me, and our membership is very variable, but it includes lots of kidney patients and carers, and representatives from the National Kidney Federation and Kidney Care UK. Next slide, please. This is what we do. Our work is gradually expanding across the UK Kidney Association, but an important part of our role remains information government, and that's where our involvement in the UK Renal Registry comes in. And I'd like to talk about 3 examples in this presentation. Next slide, please. The first presentation is the summary of the annual report, which Nithin has mentioned. The UK Renal Registry full report is a fantastic resource and is absolutely brilliant if you want to find out how your unit is doing, but I wouldn't describe it as casual reading. And as a patient council, we've always believed that it's critical to set out the key points from the annual report in a format that most people can understand. And to do this, the annual report's plain English summary has evolved from written text within the annual report into a separate, short and very sweet 12-page infographic that's aimed at everyone, whatever their level of understanding. Next slide, please. This is the page that shows the data on people already on kidney replacement therapy. As you can see, there are now 71,000 adults on KRT. Most people now have had a transplant, which I think is just fantastic news. However, I think it's somewhat depressing that so few people still are on home therapies. I mean, I was on home dialysis for a number of years, and it allowed me to have a job, allowed my freedom, and really meant that I could live, dialyse to live, not live to dialyse, as they say. Next slide, please. This is a page that is not included in the full annual report, and it's data that was requested by the Patient Council. And before I discuss this slide, very quickly, please remember that these are averages. So by definition, half of the people are below and half of the people are above. The green bars are transplant and the brown bars are dialysis. And as you can see, really at all age groups except the extreme old age, over 80s, having a transplant is an advantageous. I mean, obviously, you've got to bear in mind that people eligible for transplant tend to be fitter and have fewer other illnesses. But even so, having a transplant is definitely something to be denied. The black dots are life expectancy in the general population, that is, people without kidney disease. And as you can see, kidney failure is life-shortening, which a lot of people I know who are not in the kidney world always find this quite surprising, how maybe we don't tell people enough. I think the subject of survival can be very difficult to discuss, especially for doctors who are, say, faced by a young patient who's just been told they have kidney failure, as I was at the age of 24. But I think if we talk about survival, and I think people have a right to know, it can help and support and empower patients. For example, it's not a good idea to put your life on hold while you wait for that transplant. Could I have the next slide, please? This is, Nithin has already talked about these two committees, the UK Renal Registry Data Research Group and Radar Research Data Analysis Group, on which we have 4 Patient Council representatives to assess applications to use UKRR data. Next slide, please. I thought the best way to summarise Patient Council members' experience of membership of these committees was to ask them. This is what 3 of them said. I wanted to make applications for use of UKRR data to have text that can be readily understood by lay people, and particularly renal patients, who can then offer advice and observations without feeling that their voices might not receive sensitive consideration. These are amongst the few committees that I feel have integrated patients into them rather than being rules dictated tick box. And as a patient, I find it reassuring to know there is patient representation and participation in these committees. Next slide, please. And this one is, well, I think the people should be very pleased about this who run these committees. I can strongly recommend membership of these 2 committees to any patient who's seriously interested in the use of patient data for research and would like to become meaningfully involved on equal terms with kidney specialists. The committees are designed to be patient-friendly. They are welcoming, willing to engage and clarify technical issues if needed. And the evaluation criteria they use give priority to the patient experience and to patient involvement in decisions. And anyone who has ever felt like a tick box exercise as a patient on a committee, I can only say I found this feedback incredibly positive. Next slide, please. The third example is the UK Kidney Association Disparities Report, which Nithin briefly recommended. I mean, these reports were led by the Patient Council as our research focus, which we have a regular research focus using UK Renal Registry data. And here I want to give huge thanks to Dr. Barney Hole, who was then Clinical Fellow, and the fantastic team at the UK Renal Registry, especially the amazing statisticians. The reports were released in 2023. They're compiled from data from 2014 to 20. And they look at 4 protected characteristics under the UK Equality Act 2010, data which are collected by the registry. And these are age, sex, ethnicity, and socioeconomics. And they are specifically designed to be reader friendly. So they're actually a very good read. Next slide, please. Some key messages from the report, and I don't think any of this will be surprising, but people who live in areas of greater deprivation have higher rates of kidney failure and diabetes. More deprived areas are more likely to have younger and more ethnic minority patients with kidney failure. Black and ethnic minority patients have higher rates of kidney failure and affected at younger ages than their white counterparts. And sadly, people living in more deprived areas have less access to home therapies, transplant listing, and early transplantation. Next slide, please. These data are very well recognised disparities, but I think what's important is that they've highlighted the complexities of the patterns in these data. I mean, for example, as the previous slide showed, there's a very strong intersection between your socioeconomic position, where you live, and ethnicity. And it's important to note about the disparities report that we really focused on highlighting the difference rather than commenting on the fairness of care and outcomes, which I really think is a much higher pay grade than the Patient Council. And we really need a more in-depth scientific approach to fully understand and address these disparities. However, we hope that for now, the report is a foundation for future research and policy making, aiming to identify and improve standards of care for every kidney patient. And can I have next slide, please, which I think is my final one. Yes, I think this should be the motto of the UK Renal Registry. Collecting data is pointless unless it's used. It's rather like buying that amazing piece of clothing and then putting it in the back of the wardrobe to never be worn. Output should be patient focused. And my experience is by working together, the Patient Council and the UK Kidney Association ensure that data count for patients. And I've agreed with Miranda that I will share this slide, or at least the information on it, so that you can easily access the registry annual report, the disparities report, and the report about inequity of access to the UK kidney transplant waiting list, and also the infographic, the patient summary, and also the contact details for me and the web page for the Patient Council. Thanks very much indeed for listening.
Thanks, Sue. That was absolutely brilliant. Really good to hear so much about patients who are really active in data research. And thank you for highlighting the disparities reports, and also for raising that issue around the difficult conversations we have around survival and the realities that face kidney patients. So thank you very much for that. We're now going to move on to Katie Wong. She's a radar clinical. Sorry, we're right. Okay.
I could work off this list if it's easier for you.
Could you go on to mute, please?
Oh, I see.
Okay. Right, we're going to move on to Katie, who's a radar clinical research fellow and also a Southwest Renal trainee, and she's going to talk to us about the National Registry of Rare Kidney Diseases. Thank you, Katie.
Great, thank you so much. So today I'll be talking about how the National Registry of Rare Kidney Diseases, or RADAR, can be used to benefit patients. So why are rare kidney diseases important? So by definition, a rare kidney disease affects less than 5 in 10,000 of the population. So why should we care when there are other more common causes of kidney disease to be thinking about? Well, firstly, individuals with rare kidney diseases make up a significant number of people living with kidney failure in the UK. So 10% of adults and more than 50% of children receiving treatment for kidney failure have a rare disease. However, small numbers of patients means that a doctor may see a certain rare kidney disease maybe once or twice in their whole career, and this makes it very difficult to gain experience and knowledge. Historically, it's also been difficult to convince funders and drug companies to invest in treatments for rare kidney diseases because they affect a relatively small number of people, although there are some initiatives now to try and tackle this. This has led to a lack of understanding about rare kidney diseases, from things as simple as who develops these conditions and what symptoms they get, to things that are understandably really important for patients, such as what age are they going to develop symptoms and how likely and how quickly are they to reach kidney failure. And patients often face delays in diagnosis and lack of reliable information on their conditions once they are diagnosed. And the importance of this is really highlighted by Susan McKenzie here from the Rare Kidney Disease Foundation. I'll never forget that phone call 2 years ago when my daughter and I finally learned we had MUC1. The genetic mutation that had plagued my family had been revealed. Others in my family could now get tested. So with that concrete diagnosis came indescribable hope. So RADAR was formed in 2010 to try and address some of these challenges. It collects historical and future data for patients with rare kidney diseases in the UK and currently recruits from 109 renal units across all 4 nations into 33 rare disease groups and has currently recruited more than 36,000 patients. RADAR is slightly different from the UK Renal Registry, which you've just heard about, in that for a patient to be part of RADAR, they need to sign a consent form to be part of RADAR, and for their details, most of the time, to be linked with other data sources and for us to receive data from other data sources. So alongside manually entered data by research staff at the time of recruitment, RADAR receives information from the UK Renal Registry when a patient starts dialysis or receives a kidney transplant, from renal unit IT systems, for blood test results and urine test results. And excitingly, over the last 18 months, we've also developed the ability to accept data directly from the participant. And currently, RADAR is the largest rare kidney disease registry in the world. So with all this data, what can RADAR do? So firstly, we can take a snapshot of people living with rare kidney diseases today and describe them in detail. And we can also identify patients recruited to RADAR that are eligible for clinical trials and contact them. We can look at changes over time and describe how often and how quickly patients develop kidney failure and look at what factors affect this. And we can also use questionnaire studies to understand the experiences of people living with rare kidney diseases. And I'll just take you through a quick example of each one of these. So RADAR was contacted by researchers looking to run a new trial of a medication for patients with Alport syndrome with a very specific genetic change with a certain level of kidney function. Now, recruiting to trials like this traditionally would have been almost impossible, and that's because people with this very specific change are very, very small in number. And for instance, they may live all over the country. And then data on their kidney function and their contact details might be stored at their local or regional hospital. And these may or may not have access to their genetic test results. But for most patients in England, genetics tests are reviewed at regional genomics hubs. So data can be spread across different parts of the country and across different institutions, making it difficult to access. So what RADAR has been doing is, alongside routinely collecting local hospital and laboratory data, we've also been trying to really input genetic reports from regional genomics hubs. And this was really driven by Susie Gear from Alport UK, who felt, I think similarly to what Sue's been saying, that if the patients have consented and the data is available, then we should really be getting it into RADAR and using it. Otherwise, what is the point of collecting it? So all of this data is reviewed by the RADAR team. And for around 500 patients, we had data for their specific genetic change and their more generic results. And we were able to identify a number of patients who were eligible for the trial. And ultimately, after discussing it with their doctors, 3 patients were recruited to this trial. So patients with this very specific genetic change make a very small amount or none at all of a key kidney protein, a kind of type 4 collagen. And this protein in these pictures of kidney cells here shows up as green. So you can see on the left here that the patient is making very little of this protein at all. But on the right, and this is after treatment, after receiving the drug, they're making much, much more of it. So these results are really exciting and only made possible because patients kindly agreed to be part of RADAR. We also looked at changes over time for all patients in RADAR. And for these analyses, which we did in 2022, we included more than 25,000 patients in 20 rare disease groups with an average follow-up time of around 10 years. So we were able to look at what the average age was that people with each rare kidney disease reached kidney failure. So this graph here looks at glomerular disorders, which is only one area that RADAR looks at. Along the bottom is age at kidney failure, and each different coloured line is a different rare kidney disease. And each time a patient in that group reaches kidney failure, the line drops by 1. So from these, we were able to calculate the average age a person in that group might reach kidney failure. And as Sue said, I want to stress that these are average ages. And like she said, 50% of people will be above this and 50% below. And if you look at, for instance, the dark blue line, ANCA-associated vasculitis, the average age was quite high, 88.7. But for instance, for those with IgA nephropathy in the dark green, this was much lower at 55 years. We also wanted to look at how quickly kidney function went down for each rare kidney disease. So for this graph, along the bottom is time from diagnosis, and along the side is approximate percentage kidney function, or eGFR. And again, each different coloured line is a different rare kidney disease. So where the lines start on the left-hand side indicates the average eGFR, or the average percentage kidney function that group starts with when they are diagnosed. And the steepness of the line indicates how quickly that group loses kidney function on average. We were also able to calculate something we call the time in therapeutic window, which was a time between a percentage kidney function of 75 and 30. And this was important because this is the time frame in which you're most likely to be recruited to a clinical trial or and to receive a new medication. And this differed between groups. So again, for ANCA-associated vasculitis, this was a long time, 10.5 years. But for instance, for those with IgA nephropathy with a significant protein leak, this was only 4 years, the dark green line. And you can see visually that's because they have a much steeper decline in their kidney function. And I think these results help to guide discussions in clinic, and also to highlight how difficult it is sometimes to recruit patients to trials. We also looked at outcomes for all people living with rare kidney diseases combined, and compared them to those living with non-rare causes of chronic kidney disease, such as diabetes and high blood pressure. And we found lower rates of death compared to the CKD population and higher rates of kidney failure. So patients with rare kidney diseases were half as likely to die and up to 28 times more likely to develop kidney failure over 5 years compared to people with other causes of CKD, and therefore were much more likely to need expensive treatments like dialysis or transplant, and the associated heavy toll that can take on patients. And these results were published in a medical journal called The Lancet, and provide really strong evidence to take to funders and to drug companies to say that actually, to decrease the number of people living with kidney failure in the UK and therefore our reliance on dialysis and transplantation, we need to focus and invest in treatments and cures specifically for rare kidney diseases and not just for chronic kidney disease in general. And now I'll just very quickly go through how we've been using questionnaires to sort of better understand the lived experience of people with rare kidney diseases. So last year we distributed a questionnaire looking at loin pain and the, people's experience of loin pain in RADAR. And this was driven by the IgA nephropathy patient Facebook group, who felt very strongly that loin pain was poorly understood and often dismissed by medical staff. So this questionnaire was sent out to over 16,000 people, and just under 4,000 people responded. And I think what I found particularly startling was that actually a large proportion of people reported this loin pain. So 62% of people who responded reported loin pain. We found that participants who were female had a raised body mass index, were from more socially deprived areas, and had certain kinds of rare kidney disease, were more likely to experience loin pain. And at worst, some participants said they experienced this pain every day. We also asked patients to pick words to describe what their pain felt like, and the most commonly chosen were tiring and exhausting and aching. And hopefully these results help to understand a bit more in depth the burden of loin pain in rare kidney diseases. Outside of research, we also have a Patient Representatives Day, which is an annual meeting of patient representatives for RADAR groups along with the RADAR team. And it allows larger, more established charities such as the PKD charity or Alport UK to share knowledge and expertise with and networks and infrastructure with people just beginning to start up their patient groups. And we also have a patient newsletter with updates from RADAR and upcoming events. And if you would like to access these, you can use this QR code here. So yes, thank you very much for listening, and thank you in particular to all the patients and families who have kindly agreed to participate in RADAR. And this is the amazing team that I work with. I realise that's been a real rattle through, so if you have any questions that come to you afterwards, there's my email there at the bottom. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks so much, Katie. Really informative about RADAR. I've actually went to the annual patient rep day, and it was really great to meet a whole lot of people. I think there was a real sort of sense of community around people with rare kidney diseases because they so rarely meet other people, I think, and they sort of, it was a really heartening day. I think we're quite rushed. We've probably just got time for one question, and there's somebody asked a question about Scotland, and Nithin, I don't know if you're able to answer the question about, I know there's a separate Scottish Renal Registry. It'd be quite interesting to know how that fits in with the UK Renal Registry.
Yeah, so I've answered in the chat already, but yeah, the annual report covers the entire UK, which is Scotland, Northern Ireland, and England and the Wales, and the AKI report covers just the England as per the NHS England mandate.
Right, thank you.
Cheers.
And sorry, I'm on my iPad here, so it's a little bit hard to see if there's any other questions, but I think that was it. Don't worry about your interruptions, Mark. I hope your wife is right. So I think we're just about there with the time. Do feel free to message us if you've got any more questions or you want to know more, if you've got suggestions for more webinars. So you can email at researchcomms@kidneyresearchuk.org. Our next webinar is going to be on Wednesday, the 14th of May. It's an evening one, 6 o'clock, and it's going to be all about the kidney data science catalyst. So we look forward to you joining us then. Thank you so much for all the speakers today, for joining us, for talking about their work, and also for all of the work that you do for patients. It's been absolutely brilliant having you here. Thank you so much, and see you next time.